Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we plant Astilbe. So let's go. We are on the west side of my house, and even though there is morning sun in this area, later in the day as we head into the afternoon, this area gets very shady. This has been a very tough area in my yard for me to grow plants. I've experimented with a lot of different plants. Last year I planted a bunch of Astilbe in this area. I wanted to experiment and just see how it would do. It is now early July and the Astilbe is starting to bloom. It's looking so pretty down here, and that tells me that this plant will do well in this location. Generally, Astilbe thrives in shady locations, but since this area gets afternoon shade, I think that's why the Astilbe is thriving. However, depending on where you live, you might live in an area where it's very hot, very sunny, then you'll definitely want to plant your Astilbe in a full shade location. Lately, I've been monitoring the light situation in all my flower beds, so I'm paying close attention to this particular flower bed today, and I'll know for sure if it's part sun, part shade, or what it is. But nevertheless, today we're going to be packing this area with more Astilbe, the same color, because I have more of this plant in my backyard plant nursery. When I planted these in my flower bed, I didn't plant all of them. So we're going to go and we're going to get the rest of the plants and get them in the ground. I made a video last year showing you where I got these plants from. They were not bought from a store. I actually got them for free on Facebook Marketplace. A nice lady wanted her flower beds thinned out. She put it on Marketplace. Myself, as well as others, were able to come and help thin out her flower beds to our benefit, which was super nice of her. And I promised myself I did not want to sell those plants. I wanted to put them in my landscape because she was so nice to share part of her gardens with us. If you missed that video, I'm going to link it down below because I feel like it's very inspirational to be able to go on Marketplace and be able to get plants for free for your own garden. Because not only did I get Astilbe, I got a whole bunch of other plants from her garden, and they were so beautiful and lovely. I want to show you some Astilbe that I have in other areas of my yard because it is looking so pretty this time of year. And Astilbe comes in lots of different colors, lots of different heights. And not only that, I have the Astilbe in different areas where I have full sun, and I also have Astilbe in areas where it's full shade. So it really does thrive in different locations. So now let's head down to my backyard plant nursery and I'll show you where the Astilbe stayed over the winter months and where we're going to grab it from. Along with the Astilbe, there will be weeds, so we'll be pulling the weeds out of here. I love Astilbe, and if you have a shade garden and you don't have Astilbe, you really should consider it. It is such a beautiful plant. Many times we struggle with adding color in our shade gardens, and you can see that having Astilbe in a shade garden really will make that area pop. I am so glad that when I dug up the Astilbe from this woman's house, I went ahead and divided it right down because, you know, when you divide your perennials down, you end up with a lot more plants that way. I don't know how many plants are in here, but again, I didn't plant all of them that day when I got them from her house. I divided them down, I potted them up, and some of them went in that area that we're working in today, and some of them went into this area here. And I had some of these trays on hand, so I'm just popping all of these plants into these trays. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for these to bloom because I wanted to make sure that they were the right color for that area. It is only 9 o'clock in the morning. My camera died because it's just getting overheated. I wanted to show you, we ended up with 2 trays full. So we have 20 plants that we can get in the ground today. So exciting. And just for reference, we're in my front yard, near the bottom of my front yard. You can see I have a small flower bed here. I like to call this my driveway flower bed because it is up along the driveway. From this direction here, you can see I've come in recently and mulched it just to freshen it up a little bit, right around the corner here. That's where we will be today. And I want to show you that there are a lot of plants in here looking beautiful, right? We have all the Astilbe that I planted in here last year. As we head in this direction here, there are less blooms. So this will continue to be an experiment. Why are there less blooms? Is it just a little too shady? Is it a little too sunny? I'm not quite sure. Nevertheless, we will be planting all of the Astilbe in here, and then next year we will revisit this area and we'll see. is this one section still without blooms, and why is that? I also want to add that drip irrigation was installed in this area of the bed last year. My husband and I came in and did that. So we know that it's not an issue that these plants are not getting enough water. They are definitely getting plenty of water. But I just love this little pocket of my yard, and I can't wait for us to add more plants here. So we're just going to start with placing the plants in different areas of this flower bed. I think that's part of the fun, is just placing them, seeing what you think, and then you can always move things. And in terms of spacing, I just look at it. I just visually look at it and space it however I want. I know oftentimes on labels or tags, it will tell you the right spacing. In this situation, I want these plants to be nice and close to each other. I want them to make great impact. And you can see that I'm trying to curve them this way. So basically, your eyes follow this way into the next flower bed, which has a whole bunch of impatiens and coleus, lots of other plants over there. And my goal is to come in on a different day and put some annuals towards the front. I know it's July and I'm still planting annuals, and that's okay. I still have annuals to get in the ground. And so I'm planning on putting in some impatiens that I started from seed. They were Dollar Tree seeds, and I ended up with a lot of impatiens this year. They really need to get in the ground. Even though the container pots say proven winners, these are not proven winner plants. I just like to reuse my pots, but I wanted to show you a close-up of how beautiful this color is of this Astilbe. The other thing that I want to show you is if you look inside this container pot, there's actually 2, if not 3 plants in some of these container pots. I will not be dividing them down. I want to keep them as is because they're still quite small. Again, we can always move some of these around. I'm basically just trying to tuck them in, and then I'm going to step back. I'm going to look and see the placement of everything, and then I can always move things around as needed. When I planted these last year, I made sure I planted them right next to the drip irrigation line. At this point, I'm not worrying too much about it. I feel confident they're going to get enough water. And if for whatever reason I notice a few of them are not doing well, I can always add drip to the plant, or I can always move the plant. There's another small little pocket where I'm thinking it would look pretty to carry the Astilbe. And it's basically right up in there. You just never know with plants how they're going to do. But I thought it would look really nice to have some Astilbe on this corner here, just so that your eyes carry you as you're coming up the driveway. You see a whole bunch of Astilbe down in that corner there, but then you notice a few more over here. I think we'll just start with 3 over here because, again, I'm not quite sure how they're going to do in this area. And if I feel like they look really nice here, I can always add more next year. And then if I feel like it doesn't look so good, I can always take these and move them back over in that area. This weed has to go, though. Let's go ahead and get this plant placed over in that area. So I'm just going to move the mulch aside because this was all freshly mulched, so I don't want to make a mess of this space. And when it comes to planting these, I am not adding any additional water in the planting hole because the soil is very wet. It was just watered last night with the irrigation. However, if you're planting in dry soil, you definitely want to put some water in the planting hole before you put your plant in. And also, it's going to be warm today, and if it's very hot where you live, then you definitely want to make sure that you've watered your plant the night before and watered the ground the night before. I don't usually add any sort of fertilizer like biotone or anything like that in the planting hole, but you definitely can do that as well. My soil has been enriched with lots of compost over the years that I've made myself, so I feel like the soil has everything that it needs for this plant. And as I'm digging, I'm finding that I have an irrigation line right here, which is perfect. But again, the irrigation line is not necessary. It doesn't have to be right up to the plant. These plants definitely want to come out of their pots. That's why the roots are coming out from the bottom. So I'm just squeezing the sides of the pot just to help the plant get out of it. And I'm going to tease the roots just a little bit, just to help it so that the plant's roots are not going in a circle, but instead they're going to spread right out inside of the hole. I am so excited about having this much Astilbe. If you have Astilbe in your yard, it's actually a very easy plant to divide. I've divided my plants in other areas of my yard many times, and I have videos that show you how to divide Astilbe. I'll put it down in the description below in case you're interested. And now that we've planted it, I can go ahead and just put the mulch back in place. We often think of shade gardens as blah and boring, but really they don't have to be. There are so many beautiful plants you can add in your shade garden. And to get that color that you get in the late spring, early summer months, the Astilbe is a perfect choice for that. If you ever notice the leaves on your Astilbe are turning crispy, they are turning brown and they're not looking good, that usually means your Astilbe is either not getting enough water or that you have it in too much sun and you need to move it into an area where it's a little more protected and a little more shady. And I'm really excited about having finally found a plant that's going to do well in this area. It's just been a tricky area for whatever reason. I think because it gets that morning sun, afternoon shade, and I think I've just put the wrong plants in here. I think as gardeners, we sometimes do that. So I think it's good to always experiment and try different plants until you finally find a plant that's doing well in a new spot. In terms of planting depth, I'm planting these as deep as they are in these pots. And for fertilizer, when it comes to almost all of my perennials that are herbaceous perennials, meaning they're perennials that die back down to the ground, I typically just feed them once in the springtime, and I feed them with an all-purpose 10-10-10 fertilizer. And then there's certain perennials that I prune back or cut back during the middle of summer. And with those perennials, as soon as I cut them back hard, I give them a 10-10-10 slow-release fertilizer again, especially the perennials that are apt to rebloom. When it comes to Astilbe, they usually just bloom once, and then that's it. After they're done blooming, I come in here, I cut back the flower stalk, but I leave the leaves because the leaves are beautiful. They add interest in the garden, and the leaves are feeding the plant for next year's blooms. I'm making sure to press down. I want those roots to make good contact with the soil. Now that we've planted a couple of Astilbe together, let me go ahead and get the rest of these planted. I'll show you how this area looks once it's all planted up with the Astilbe. Before I give you a tour of this area, I wanted to go over a couple of things. The first thing is, as I was planting in the mulch, I was remembering many years ago when I first started gardening at my parents' house, they always had a very thick layer of mulch. And I was a rookie, I really didn't know, and when I used to put flowers in their flower beds, I used to just dig a hole right inside of the mulch and not think about what I was planting into. And I would just put the plants in there, and I noticed that they weren't thriving. So if you're like me and you have a thick layer of mulch down, it's very important to push the mulch aside before you plant your plant in there, especially if there's not enough soil. You may need to actually come in and add soil into that planting hole because that plant is going to need the soil. It doesn't want to grow just inside of mulch. The mulch is more to be around the top of the plant to help suppress weeds and to keep moisture in. And of course, mulch is also there for aesthetic reasons so that it looks pretty. Another thing I was thinking about was if you are going to go onto Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, anything like that, always be safe. I always bring my husband with me because you're going to someone's house or you're meeting them in a public place. You just want to be safe. And if you are going to get a nice, big, established plant, I suggest trying to divide it, at least divide it into smaller sections. That way you have a lot more plants to put in your garden. Once the blooms have gone by, I'll go ahead and I will cut back the blooms. I've never collected the seeds off of Astilbe. It might be possible to do. I've had a lot of luck propagating or getting free plants just by dividing this plant. So definitely try that out as well. I have Astilbe in other areas of my yard that I need to dig up, divide, and move. So I'll be doing that in a future video, so be on the lookout for that video. Another tip that I want to share with you is when it comes to buying Astilbe, sure, you can buy it from a garden center, but did you know it's a very easy plant to start from bare root? So in the springtime, many garden centers have a section where you can buy bare root plants. Definitely look for Astilbe there because you can buy Astilbe pretty cheap that way. You can pot it up, let it grow on a little bit, and then you can go ahead and put it in your landscape. Or depending on where you live, you might be able to buy that bare root plant and put it directly in your landscape. But nevertheless, bare root is definitely the way to go when it comes to buying Astilbe plants from a store. I hope this video gave you some ideas and inspiration. And if you have a shady part of your yard and you don't have Astilbe there, definitely consider adding it to your garden. It's such a beautiful plant that adds a lot of interest, both for its flowers as well as its foliage. As always, I welcome questions and comments below. If you like this kind of video, please consider hitting the thumbs up or the like button down below. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.